In the quiet, rural town of Clarksville, Tennessee, a modest house sits at the end of a narrow street lined with old oak trees and wildflower patches. Here, life is simple yet challenging for Emma, a gentle-hearted 3-year-old girl with curly, honey-blonde hair and big brown eyes that reflect a longing beyond her years. She lives with her mother, Mrs. Sarah Hastings, a soft-spoken woman in her late 20s who carries a weight of sorrow but shields her daughter from it as best she can. Since the tragic passing of Emma's father a year ago, Sarah has been doing everything she can to make ends meet. She works long hours as a waitress at the local diner, taking double shifts whenever possible. The townsfolk know her as a kind, resilient woman who rarely complains, though her eyes often carry a distant sadness. She's known to accept tips graciously, even from customers who insist on adding a bit extra when they see her tired smile. Their home, though worn and humble, is filled with remnants of the family they used to be. Photos of Emma as a newborn in her father's arms, a wedding picture on the dresser, and a collection of his favorite novels gathering dust on a small shelf. Every corner holds memories that Sarah tries to keep alive for Emma, though the little girl is still too young to understand the full scope of loss. Emma spends most of her days at home. With Sarah working late, she is often alone in the small, fenced-in backyard, playing with her dolls or drawing with chalk on the concrete path. She's a naturally quiet child, more inclined to observe her surroundings than to make noise. She listens to the birds singing, watches squirrels skitter up trees, and sometimes, she gazes longingly at the empty swing set her father had put up for her last birthday, hoping for someone to share her time with. One warm summer afternoon, as Emma's fingers idly trace shapes in the dirt, Sarah kneels beside her, brushing a stray curl from her daughter's forehead. "Mommy has to go to work soon, sweetie," she says gently, her voice tinged with the guilt that often gnaws at her. "But Mrs. Brown next door said she'll check on you." Emma nods quietly, glancing up with wide eyes. "Will you be home soon, Mama?" "I'll try, honey," Sarah whispers, fighting the sting of tears. She hugs Emma tightly, wishing she didn't have to leave her so often. But the diner hours are the only thing keeping a roof over their heads. As Sarah walks down the path, she calls over her shoulder, "Be good for Mrs. Brown, okay?" Emma nods, a faint smile on her lips, though a small frown lingers as she watches her mother leave. She picks up her doll, cradling it as if it were a friend. The street grows quiet, and the evening light casts a soft glow over the yard. Emma's solitude becomes her familiar companion once more. As the days pass, Sarah watches Emma growing more reserved, the bubbly giggles and endless questions she once had beginning to fade. Sarah knows her daughter needs companionship, someone to play with, someone who will fill the empty spaces that neither work nor words can reach. But in a town where everyone is busy with their own lives and with little family support nearby, options are few. Each night, Sarah promises herself she'll find a way to make things better for Emma, to bring joy back into her little girl's eyes. For now, though, all she can do is hold her close each night and pray for brighter days ahead. Clarksville may be a quiet town, but for the Hastings, every day is a delicate balance of hope and survival. Little do they know, change is on the horizon. The following weeks drift by with a quiet routine. Emma's days fall into a rhythm of solitary play and silent observation, with only the chirping birds and occasional passing cars to break the stillness. She becomes accustomed to her mother's absence, though a part of her still yearns for companionship. Her favorite place is the small, patchy backyard, an oasis in her young world where she spends hours drawing shapes in the dirt or singing to her doll, Lily. Emma sits at the base of the swing set one afternoon, her doll cradled in her arms as she gazes out past the gate into the street. Her eyes follow a pair of children riding bikes, laughing and calling out to each other as they zoom by. A pang of sadness settles in her chest, and she turns back to her doll, whispering, "One day, Lily will have friends too." She holds the doll a bit closer, her voice barely a murmur in the soft summer air. As the sun dips lower, casting long shadows across the yard, Mrs. Brown from next door pokes her head over the fence. She's a kind woman in her 60s, with a round face and a gentle voice, and she often checks on Emma while Sarah is at work. "Hey there, Emma," she calls softly, not wanting to startle the child. "You doing all right?" Emma looks up, her lips curving into a small smile. "Hi, Mrs. Brown," she replies, her voice soft but cheerful. She clutches her doll a bit tighter, grateful for the presence of a familiar face, even if just for a moment. "You know, I was thinking," Mrs. Brown begins, her face thoughtful, "maybe you could come by my house sometime. I have some cookies I baked today." She smiles, hoping to draw Emma out of her shell, if only for a little while. Emma hesitates, casting a quick glance toward her house. She loves cookies, but something in her shy nature keeps her from accepting the invitation. She simply nods, a polite maybe escaping her lips, though Mrs. Brown can tell she's hesitant. "Well, the offer's open," Mrs. Brown says warmly, undeterred. She gives Emma a kind smile and heads back inside, leaving Emma to her thoughts. The day fades, and soon Sarah returns home, exhausted but smiling when she sees Emma waiting by the front door. "Hey, my little bug," Sarah greets, dropping to her knees to hug Emma. She lifts her daughter's chin, noticing the quiet in her eyes, a quiet that seems too profound for someone so young. "Did you have a good day?" Emma shrugs, and after a moment, she whispers, "I wish I had someone to play with, Mama." Her words are soft but cut deeply into Sarah's heart. "Oh, honey, I know." Sarah pulls Emma close, feeling the weight of her daughter's loneliness press against her. She strokes Emma's hair, searching for the right words, but finding none that would truly ease the ache. "I'm going to find a way to make things better," she promises. "I don't know how just yet, but I'll find a way." Emma leans into her mother's embrace, and together, they sit in the fading light, the promise of change hanging gently in the air. The days continue as they always do, until one breezy afternoon, something unexpected happens. Emma is in her usual spot in the backyard, absently drawing shapes in the dirt, when she notices a movement by the front gate. She looks up, her eyes widening as a dog, a large, muscular pit bull with a coat the color of chocolate, ambles up to the fence. The dog's eyes are dark, almost soulful, and he watches her with a calm, curious gaze, his body worn and thin from what seems to be a hard life on the streets. Emma's heart skips a beat. She's always loved animals, but she's never seen a dog quite like this one. He's big, with scars that hint at past struggles, yet there's a gentleness in his eyes that makes her feel unexpectedly safe. She inches closer to the fence, curiosity overcoming her usual shyness. "Hi," she whispers, her voice barely audible, as if afraid she might scare him away. The dog doesn't flinch. He simply sits, tilting his head as he looks back at her, his gaze unwavering. There's a depth in his eyes, something that feels almost human, and Emma feels an odd connection to this strange visitor. After a few moments, she runs inside and finds a slice of bread from the lunch Mrs. Brown had left earlier. She returns to the gate, extending her small hand through the fence with the bread. The dog sniffs cautiously before taking the bread gently, his large jaws closing around it delicately, as if aware of her smallness. Emma giggles softly, a sound that's rare in her solitary days. "You're hungry, aren't you?" she asks, watching him chew the bread. "I'll call you Buddy," she decides, smiling shyly at him. "You look like a buddy." The dog finishes his meal and gives a small huff, almost like a sigh of contentment. He sits there, not leaving, and Emma takes this as a sign to keep talking. She begins to tell him about her day, about her doll Lily, and about her mother. "It gets lonely sometimes," she admits, her voice barely a whisper. "But you're here now, Buddy, so maybe I don't have to be alone." Time seems to slow as they sit together in comfortable silence, Emma's small hand resting on the fence as Buddy watches her intently, his eyes filled with something soft, almost protective. For the first time in months, Emma feels a flicker of happiness, a sense of companionship that she hadn't realized she missed so much. As the evening grows darker, Sarah returns home, surprised to find Emma sitting by the gate with a strange dog nearby. Her initial reaction is one of concern. "Emma, honey, what are you doing?" she calls gently, trying to mask the worry in her voice. Emma turns, her face lighting up as she waves to her mother. "Mama, this is Buddy. He came to visit me." Sarah hesitates, eyeing the large pit bull warily. But something about the dog's calm demeanor, his patient gaze fixed on Emma, eases her nerves. She approaches slowly, and Buddy remains still, almost as if he understands that Sarah needs time to trust him. "Buddy, huh?" Sarah murmurs, offering a tentative smile as she stands beside her daughter. She can't deny the joy she sees in Emma's eyes, a spark that's been missing for too long. Sarah decides to let this moment be, to see where it might lead. "Well, Mr. Buddy," she says softly, her voice both cautious and kind, "if you're going to be Emma's friend, you'd better be a good one." From that day on, Buddy becomes a regular presence at the gate, and soon, he becomes an integral part of Emma's world. Each morning, he's there, waiting patiently as if he's been watching over her all night. Emma starts saving little bits of her meals for him, thrilled to see him each day and share whatever small treats she can find. As the days go by, Buddy's once wary eyes begin to soften, his cautious stance relaxing as he comes to trust Emma and Sarah. One late afternoon, as Emma sits beside Buddy at the gate, Sarah steps outside with a gentle smile and a sandwich in hand. She approaches Buddy slowly, her voice soft. "Here, boy. I thought you might want something a little more filling." She holds out the sandwich, and Buddy takes it with the same careful gentleness he shows Emma, his eyes watching her gratefully. After a moment of silence, Sarah crouches down beside Emma, her eyes fixed on Buddy. "Emma, sweetheart," she begins, choosing her words carefully. "He's a big dog, and sometimes big dogs can be unpredictable." Emma nods, her gaze unwavering as she strokes Buddy's head. "But he's nice, Mama. He doesn't hurt me." Buddy sits quietly, his demeanor calm, as if he understands the importance of Sarah's acceptance. Slowly, Sarah reaches out, and Buddy leans his head into her hand. She feels the rough texture of his fur, marked with small scars, each one telling a story she'll never know. The connection is undeniable, and something in her heart shifts, as if Buddy's presence brings with it a kind of comfort she hadn't anticipated. As twilight sets in, Sarah stands up, brushing off her knees. "All right, Buddy," she says with a hint of a smile. "Looks like you're part of the family, at least for now." Emma beams, wrapping her arms around Buddy's neck as best as she can, her small voice full of excitement. "Did you hear that, Buddy? You're family now." From then on, Sarah lets Buddy come into the yard, trusting her instincts and the bond she sees growing between him and Emma. Their connection is strong, unspoken but clear. Buddy follows Emma everywhere, from the backyard to the small swing set, and even to the edge of the street when Mrs. Brown calls her over for cookies. He seems to understand Emma's moods, staying close when she's quiet and bounding around when she giggles, his tail wagging with newfound joy. One evening, after Sarah has tucked Emma into bed, she steps outside to find Buddy lying in his usual spot by the gate. She approaches him, her voice barely a whisper. "You know, Buddy," she says, as if speaking to an old friend, "Emma needed someone like you. I didn't realize it at first, but I think you were meant to find her." Buddy looks up at her, his eyes calm and knowing. In that moment, Sarah feels something shift within her, a recognition of Buddy's loyalty and his quiet resilience. She gives him a gentle pat before heading back inside, her heart lighter than it has been in a long time. As the weeks pass, Buddy's presence brings a newfound warmth to their small family. Emma no longer seems lonely, and Sarah feels a sense of security, knowing Buddy is there to protect them both. Little do they know, though, that this sense of security will soon be put to the test in ways they could never have anticipated. On a bright, warm afternoon, Emma sits on the swing in the backyard, her little feet barely grazing the ground as she rocks back and forth, humming softly. Buddy rests nearby, his gaze never straying far from her. The piece is nearly perfect, a rare moment of calm that fills the air with a gentle warmth. Then, as if sensing something in the distance, Buddy's ears perk up, his body tensing. He stands alert, his eyes fixed on the corner of the yard where the fence meets the gate. Emma notices his change in posture and tilts her head curiously. "What's wrong, Buddy?" she asks, hopping off the swing and walking over to him. Buddy doesn't move, his focus unwavering. Emma follows his gaze, her small fingers gripping the metal bars of the gate. She strains to see what he's watching so intently but finds nothing. Still, Her trust in Buddy is unwavering, and she senses that he's aware of something she can't see. After a moment, she takes a deep breath, her curiosity getting the best of her. "Do you want to come inside, Buddy?" she asks, glancing at the gate latch. It's a small gesture, but in her innocent heart, she wants Buddy closer, wants him to feel as much a part of her life as possible. With a careful tug, Emma pulls the latch, opening the gate. Buddy steps forward cautiously, his eyes flicking to her as if for reassurance, before walking into the yard. He circles around Emma, his large body close to hers as if shielding her from an unseen threat. Emma feels safe, a deep sense of calm settling over her as she sits beside him on the grass, leaning against his strong frame. They sit quietly together, Emma's small hand resting on Buddy's back. The moment stretches, their bond deepening in the silence. But just as quickly, the peace is shattered by a loud, jarring noise, a clattering sound coming from the side of the house. Emma jumps, startled, but Buddy is already moving, his body low and tense as he heads toward the source of the noise. Emma's eyes widen as she watches him, her heart pounding. She knows something is wrong, something that even her young mind can sense isn't just a simple, everyday occurrence. Before she can process what's happening, she hears voices, muffled but aggressive. Two figures, dressed in dark clothes, are moving along the side of the house, their eyes scanning the windows as they mutter to each other. Emma's instinct is to hide, but she's rooted in place, her gaze locked on Buddy. The pit bull's body language shifts, his usual calm demeanor replaced with a fierce intensity. His lips pull back slightly, a low growl rumbling from deep in his chest. Emma watches, mesmerized, as Buddy takes a step forward, positioning himself between her and the approaching strangers. One of the men notices Buddy and pauses, his face twisting in annoyance. "It's just a dog," he mutters, waving a hand dismissively. But Buddy's growl grows louder, his stance becoming more threatening. The man hesitates, uncertainty flashing across his face. "Get lost, mutt," the other man snaps, stepping closer. But Buddy stands his ground, his eyes blazing with a protective fury that Emma has never seen before. In that moment, the men realize their mistake. Buddy lunges forward, barking with a force that echoes across the yard. The men stumble back, startled, their confidence shaken as Buddy advances on them, his bark relentless and unyielding. Emma's heart races, her fear mixed with awe as she watches Buddy defend her home. She knows she should call for her mother, but she's frozen, unable to look away from the scene unfolding before her. Just then, Mrs. Brown appears at her back door, her eyes widening as she sees what's happening. Without hesitation, she grabs her phone and calls 911, her voice urgent as she explains the situation to the dispatcher. The men, realizing they're outmatched, turn to flee, darting toward the gate. But Buddy doesn't relent. He chases them to the edge of the yard, his presence a powerful warning that this home is not to be threatened. Within moments, the distant sound of sirens fills the air, growing louder as the police arrive. The men disappear down the street, leaving Buddy standing at the gate, his body still tense, his gaze fixed in the direction they fled. As the police pull up, Sarah runs out of the house, her face pale as she sees Emma and Buddy standing together in the yard. She gathers Emma into her arms, her voice shaking. "Are you okay, sweetheart?" Emma nods, looking up at Buddy with awe and gratitude. "Buddy protected us, Mama," she whispers. "He scared the bad guys away." Sarah turns to Buddy, her eyes filling with tears as she realizes the depth of his loyalty and bravery. She crouches down beside him, reaching out to stroke his head. "Thank you, Buddy," she says softly, her voice choked with emotion. "You're our hero." The officers approach, listening as Sarah explains what happened, and one of them crouches down to give Buddy an approving pat. "Good dog," he murmurs, impressed. "You've got yourself a protector here." As the night settles over their quiet town once more, Sarah, Emma, and Buddy return to the house, their bond stronger than ever. For Emma, Buddy is no longer just a friend. He's her guardian, her fearless companion, and, most of all, her family. As Sarah, Emma, and Buddy wait in the warm glow of the living room, The faint sound of sirens grows louder, announcing the police's arrival. Emma clings tightly to her mother's hand, while Buddy stands alert by her side, his gaze never straying from the door as if ready to defend his family once more if necessary. Two officers step through the open gate, led by Officer Daniels, a tall, graying man with a gentle but professional demeanor. Sarah quickly explains what happened, her voice steady though her hands tremble slightly as she recounts the events. Officer Daniels listens carefully, nodding as he takes notes, his eyes flicking over to Buddy, who remains calm but watchful. "So, the dog scared them off?" Officer Daniels asks, a hint of admiration in his voice as he glances at Buddy. "Yes," Sarah replies, looking at Buddy with gratitude. "He chased them to the gate and didn't stop until they were gone. I don't even want to think about what could have happened if Buddy hadn't been here." Officer Daniels nods, giving Buddy a respectful smile. He's got the heart of a hero, that's for sure. He crouches down, extending his hand slowly. "Hey there, big guy. You did a good job tonight." Buddy approaches Officer Daniels with a cautious sniff, his tail giving a small wag as if sensing the officer's friendly intentions. Emma watches the exchange, her small face lighting up with pride. "Buddy's my friend," she says softly, looking up at Officer Daniels with wide eyes. "He saved us." Officer Daniels chuckles warmly. "Well, Emma, you've got yourself a very brave friend here." He turns back to Sarah. "It sounds like you've got a loyal protector. We'll file a report and increase patrols in the neighborhood for the next few days. It's rare for anything like this to happen around here, but it's always better to be safe." As the officers wrap up their investigation, Mrs. Brown appears at the fence, peering over with concern. "Is everything all right?" she calls, her voice filled with worry. Sarah steps out to reassure her. "Yes, thanks to Buddy, everything's okay. He scared off the intruders." Mrs. Brown smiles, relief flooding her face. "Well, isn't he something special? I knew he was a good boy the first time I saw him." She gives Buddy an approving nod. "He deserves all the treats in the world for what he did tonight." Once the officers leave, Sarah, Emma, and Buddy head back inside, the weight of the evening's events finally beginning to settle in. Sarah sits on the couch, pulling Emma onto her lap and wrapping her arms around her tightly. Buddy lies at their feet, his eyes half closed but his ears perked, as if still on alert. "Mommy, can Buddy stay with us forever?" Emma asks softly, looking up at Sarah with hopeful eyes. Sarah strokes her daughter's hair, her heart swelling with gratitude. "Yes, sweetheart," she says, her voice gentle. "Buddy is part of our family now." Emma smiles, hugging her mother tightly before reaching down to pat Buddy's head. "Did you hear that, Buddy? You're our family." Buddy gives a soft huff of contentment, his eyes closing as he relaxes fully, knowing that he's finally found a place where he belongs. That night, Sarah lays awake, reflecting on how much has changed since Buddy arrived. She had been worried about him at first, unsure if he would be safe around Emma. But now, after seeing his bravery and loyalty, she realizes how lucky they are to have him. He's more than just a pet. He's a protector, a friend, and a healing presence for both of them. In the days that follow, Buddy's reputation as a hero spreads throughout the town. People who once gave him wary glances now greet him with smiles and friendly waves. Children gather around to pet him, and shop owners offer him treats. His story becomes a reminder to everyone that sometimes loyalty and love come from the most unexpected places. Emma, who was once lonely, now walks around the neighborhood with Buddy by her side, her face lit with joy. She tells anyone who will listen about how Buddy saved her and her mother, her voice filled with pride and excitement. And every time she says it, Buddy's tail wags just a little faster, as if he knows how much he means to her. For Sarah, Buddy is a daily reminder that even in the face of hardship, there is always hope, love, and resilience. The family may be small, and the struggles may be many, but together, with Buddy by their side, they are stronger than ever. And so, in the heart of Clarksville, a little family finds its strength, all thanks to a dog with a heart of gold who chose them as his own. In the days following the break-in, Buddy settles more firmly into his new role as part of Emma and Sarah's family. The initial wariness the townsfolk felt towards him has faded, replaced by admiration and warmth for the dog who protected his family so bravely. Even those who might have once crossed the street to avoid him now greet him with kind smiles, offering a friendly pat on the head or a treat. One quiet afternoon, as the sun sets in a haze of pinks and oranges, Sarah watches Emma and Buddy playing in the yard, her heart swelling with gratitude. She's been thinking a lot about what Buddy means to them and how, in many ways, he saved not only their lives but their spirits. Emma's laughter echoes across the yard as Buddy playfully chases her around, his tail wagging wildly as they run in circles. After a while, Sarah calls out, "Emma, come inside for a minute. I want to talk to you and Buddy." Emma stops, her face flushed and her breath coming in quick bursts from all the running. She pats Buddy's side affectionately. "Come on, Buddy," she says, leading him inside. They sit together on the worn living room couch, Buddy lying on the floor beside Emma, his head resting on her lap. Sarah watches them both, taking a deep breath as she prepares to share her decision. "Emma," she begins, smiling softly, "I've been thinking. Buddy has done so much for us. He's kept us safe, he's made us happy, and I think it's time we make sure he knows he's really, truly part of our family." Emma's eyes light up. "What do you mean, Mama?" Sarah kneels down beside them, reaching out to stroke Buddy's head. "I mean, I think we should officially adopt him," she explains, her voice warm with emotion. "He deserves a real home, and I can't think of any place he belongs more than here, with us." Emma's face breaks into a radiant smile, and she throws her arms around Buddy, who responds with a gentle huff and a wag of his tail. "Did you hear that, Buddy? You're really ours." Buddy lifts his head, his dark eyes meeting Sarah's. There's a quiet understanding there, a gratitude that needs no words. Sarah feels a lump rise in her throat as she realizes the depth of their bond. She reaches out to scratch behind his ears, and Buddy leans into her touch, a soft, contented sigh escaping him. "Tomorrow," Sarah continues, "we'll go to the vet, make sure you're healthy, and get you all checked up. And then, we'll fill out the adoption papers so that you're officially ours. How does that sound, Buddy?" Buddy's response is a gentle lick to Sarah's hand, a small but heartfelt gesture of his own gratitude. He seems to understand, on some level, that he's no longer just a stray dog. He's part of a family. The next morning, they visit the town's small veterinary clinic, where the staff greet them warmly, already aware of Buddy's heroics. The vet, Dr. Robinson, an older man with a kind smile and a reassuring manner, conducts a thorough checkup. He nods approvingly as he examines Buddy, noting his steady heart and healthy weight. "You've got yourself a strong, healthy dog here," Dr. Robinson says, patting Buddy's side. "And he's clearly found a family that cares about him." Emma beams, holding Buddy's leash proudly as Sarah fills out the paperwork for his adoption. It feels official now, a promise to care for him, to give him the home he deserves. When they leave the clinic, Sarah feels a profound sense of peace, knowing that their family is complete. That evening, as they settle in for the night, Buddy curls up at the foot of Emma's bed, his usual spot. Emma whispers softly, "Good night, Buddy," stroking his head as his eyes drift shut. He's no longer just a visitor, a stray looking for a meal. He's her friend, her protector, her family. For Sarah, the decision to adopt Buddy marks a turning point, a reminder of the unexpected gifts life can bring. In Buddy, she found not only a guardian for her daughter, but a new beginning for herself. Together, they've created a home filled with love, resilience, and companionship. As the night deepens, Buddy sleeps peacefully, knowing he's finally where he belongs. With Buddy now a permanent member of the family, the rhythm of life at the Hastings home shifts in beautiful, subtle ways. Emma wakes up each morning to find Buddy waiting patiently by her bed, his warm eyes blinking up at her as if to say, "Good morning, friend." Every day, he accompanies her through each moment, his presence turning her once lonely hours into times of laughter and joy. In the mornings, after Sarah leaves for work, Emma and Buddy head to the backyard, where they spend hours playing under the broad, leafy oak tree. They invent games, with Emma tossing a ball for Buddy to retrieve, or Buddy simply running alongside her as she makes up little races and challenges, her laughter filling the air. Sometimes they sit together in the grass, Emma sharing her little secrets with him, her small hand resting on his back as she talks. Buddy, in his own quiet way, listens with attentive eyes, a steady companion to her thoughts. On weekends, Sarah takes them both for walks around the neighborhood. Buddy trots proudly beside them, his head held high, a loyal protector and a friend. The townspeople greet them warmly, often stopping to compliment Buddy or offer a treat. Children from the neighborhood run up to pet him, and he stands patiently, allowing each one to scratch behind his ears as he soaks in the attention. "Mommy," Emma says one Saturday afternoon as they stroll along the quiet streets, her hand tucked into Sarah's, "do you think Buddy loves us as much as we love him?" Sarah smiles, looking down at her daughter and then at Buddy, who glances up at them as if he's part of the conversation. "I think Buddy knows that he's finally found his family, sweetheart. And I think he loves us more than words could ever say." Emma grins, reaching down to give Buddy an affectionate pat. Buddy's tail wags in response, a silent affirmation of his loyalty and love. One evening, as they sit on the porch watching the sun dip below the horizon, Sarah finds herself reflecting on the journey that brought Buddy into their lives. She looks over at Emma, who is leaning against Buddy, the two of them lost in a moment of peaceful companionship. For the first time in a long while, Sarah feels a deep sense of contentment, knowing that her daughter is happy, safe, and loved. But it isn't just Emma who has found comfort in Buddy's presence. Sarah, too, feels a profound sense of gratitude for the pit bull who entered their lives so unexpectedly. Buddy's quiet strength has brought a sense of security to their home, a feeling she had almost forgotten was possible. He's taught her that family doesn't have to be perfect or traditional. It simply needs love, loyalty, and an unwavering commitment to one another. The days blend into weeks, each one filled with small but meaningful moments. Emma's world, once so limited and lonely, is now brightened by Buddy's companionship. He's her confidant, her playmate, her protector, and every time Emma looks into his warm, gentle eyes, she's reminded of the kindness that brought him to her. As night falls, Sarah tucks Emma into bed, whispering a soft goodnight. Buddy settles at the foot of her bed, his eyes drowsy but watchful, a silent promise of his presence and protection. And as Emma drifts off to sleep, a small hand reaching out to rest on Buddy's back, their bond deepens, a testament to the unexpected beauty of second chances and the healing power of love. In the heart of their small home, a family finds its strength, not defined by blood, but by loyalty, love, and the quiet, steadfast devotion of a dog named Buddy. Buddy's story spreads quickly throughout Clarksville, and soon, he becomes a beloved figure in the small town. People who once feared him for his size and breed now see him as a symbol of loyalty, bravery, and resilience. Everywhere Emma and Sarah go, neighbors stop to say hello, many asking about Buddy and telling the story of how he protected his family with pride. He's no longer just Emma's protector. He's the town's hero. At the local school spring fair, held on the green field by the town square, Emma proudly brings Buddy along. The fair is bustling with families, laughter, and the smell of cotton candy. Booths with games and food line the field, and children dart between them, holding balloons and laughing as they play. Buddy walks beside Emma, his leash loosely held in her small hands, his eyes calm and alert as he takes in the joyful chaos around him. As they stroll through the fair, several people stop to greet Buddy, and a few children cautiously approach, curious about the famous dog. Sarah, standing nearby, watches with pride as Emma speaks confidently about her friend and protector. "This is Buddy," she says to a small group of kids gathered around her. "He's my best friend, and he saved me and my mom. He's really brave." One boy, a few years older than Emma, reaches out to pet Buddy, his expression a mix of awe and respect. "My mom told me what he did," he says, looking at Emma with wide eyes. "She said he chased the bad guys away." Emma nods proudly, patting Buddy's head. "He's the best dog in the whole world." Just then, the mayor, a friendly man named Mr. Jefferson, approaches with a warm smile and a small, blue ribbon in hand. "Emma," he says kindly, crouching down to her level, "I heard all about Buddy, and I thought he deserved a little recognition for being such a brave dog." He gently places the ribbon around Buddy's neck, the small blue rosette resting against his chest. The ribbon reads Clarksville's Hero, and as Emma gazes at it, her face breaks into a huge grin. "Thank you," she exclaims, her eyes shining with pride. She looks down at Buddy, who wags his tail, seemingly pleased with the attention. She crouches beside him, whispering, "You're a real hero, Buddy." Buddy's tail thumps happily against the ground, his eyes glancing from Emma to the people around him. In his quiet, humble way, he seems to understand the significance of the moment, the love and gratitude radiating from the people who have come to see him not just as a dog, but as a symbol of courage and kindness. As the day goes on, Buddy continues to receive pats and praises from everyone he meets. Parents approach Sarah, some of them confessing that they'd once been afraid of pit bulls. But seeing Buddy, one mother says, "It's clear they're just like any other dog. They only want to love and protect." Sarah smiles, grateful that Buddy's presence has changed not only her family's life, but also the perceptions in their community. She looks over at Emma, who's still proudly showing off Buddy to her friends, her laughter filling the air. It's a moment of joy, one that feels especially precious after the challenges they've faced. As evening settles in and the fair winds down, Emma and Sarah walk home with Buddy by their side. The blue ribbon still hangs around his neck, a small but meaningful symbol of his place in their lives and the lives of everyone in Clarksville. That night, as they settle in at home, Sarah watches Emma and Buddy curled up together, a sense of peace and fulfillment washing over her. For the first time in a long time, she feels that they are truly safe, truly happy, and she knows that they have Buddy to thank for that. In the quiet darkness of their little home, Buddy lies with his head resting on Emma's lap, the blue ribbon still fastened around his neck. He's not just a protector or a pet, he's family. And in Clarksville, he will always be remembered as the dog who brought light, courage, and love into their lives. As the seasons change, life in the Hastings household finds a comforting rhythm. With Buddy by their side, Emma and Sarah move forward, their days filled with moments of laughter, warmth, and companionship. Buddy's place in the family has become so natural that it's hard to remember life without him. He's woven into their routines, their joys, and even their quiet times together. In every way that matters, he is home. One evening, after a family dinner and a long walk in the fading light, Sarah puts Emma to bed, pulling the blankets up to her chin and kissing her forehead. "Good night, my love," she says softly, her hand gently brushing Emma's hair. Emma smiles sleepily, one hand reaching out to rest on Buddy's head as he sits loyally by her bedside. "Good night, Mama. Good night, Buddy." She closes her eyes, her breathing evening out as she drifts into sleep, with Buddy keeping his familiar, silent watch. Later, as Sarah settles into her own bed, a mix of thoughts and emotions fill her mind. She thinks back to the hardships they faced, the quiet grief and loneliness that once defined their days, and the deep, unspoken worry she carried as a single mother trying to make things better for her daughter. Now, thanks to Buddy, those feelings have transformed into something lighter, a sense of peace, of wholeness, of love that fills their lives and binds them together. The weeks that follow bring small, joyful surprises. Emma's confidence blossoms as she grows closer to Buddy, her once reserved and quiet nature now more spirited and expressive. Sarah watches, grateful and amazed, as Buddy's calming influence helps Emma navigate new experiences with trust and resilience. At school, Emma talks about Buddy with a pride that makes her teachers smile, her words reflecting the loyalty and love she's learned from her faithful friend. One Saturday morning, as Emma and Sarah are cleaning up breakfast, the doorbell rings. Emma dashes to open it, Buddy close at her heels. Standing on the porch is Mrs. Brown, their elderly neighbor, holding a plate of cookies and wearing a warm, friendly smile. "Good morning, Mrs. Hastings," she says, her gaze shifting fondly to Emma. "I wanted to bring these by as a thank you to Buddy. I don't think I ever properly thanked him for keeping us all safe." Emma beams, eagerly taking the plate of cookies. "Thank you, Mrs. Brown. Buddy will love them." Mrs. Brown chuckles, patting Buddy's head. "You're a special dog, Buddy. You've done more for this little town than you know." She winks at Emma and Sarah before heading back to her house, leaving behind the sweet reminder of the bonds they've formed. Later that afternoon, Sarah sits on the porch with Buddy by her side, reflecting on how much he has given them. She strokes his fur, her heart filled with gratitude. "You've done more than protect us, Buddy," she whispers. "You've healed us." As if he understands, Buddy looks up at her, his eyes soft and steady. He gives a quiet, reassuring huff, his gaze holding the loyalty and love that words could never fully capture. With Buddy, they have found not only safety and companionship, but also the promise of new beginnings. Together, they've created a family built on trust, resilience, and the strength to face whatever comes their way. In the heart of Clarksville, in their little home, Emma, Sarah, and Buddy find that they are not just surviving. They are thriving, a testament to the power of love, loyalty, and second chances. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell, and watch this next story. It's truly moving.